what is the link if we were to join. The link, it has been created by my colleague Antoine Faghali outside the CAM registration system. I will be putting it on the website, but for the time being, the same information can be accessed at https://cam2018webs.com. It doesn't have more than just entering your detail. So later on, when we decide on a common time, we'll rejoin and discuss how to move ahead. But some of you, I understand, has to attend, some to leave. So please share it with the rest. And I will send you email later on for those who registered to send it back. There were a question or questions. How will we get the presentation? Please do not ask the speakers. We'll put them on the website and we'll tell you how to access it. So save your time, focus, and enjoy listening and discussion. Now, for this afternoon session, it is on another hot topics to be presented by my colleague and friend, Michel Khazzaka. Michel, currently he's a BlockChain practice director at Azzana Consulting in France. He has more than 15 years in the area of information system, and he worked at the Lebanese presidential palace in Lebanon before he migrated to France. He's currently has worked on payment practices, banking consultant in Europe. He's a leader one of the leaders in BlockChain. So I will stop at this level and hear from the original person rather than me. You are welcome, and the floor is for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much, and good evening to you all. Just a few seconds to connect. Do you see anything coming any soon? Okay. Better, much better. So, good evening again. I'm really happy to be in a small committee about a really dense topic, complex topic, especially a new topic each day with the news of cryptocurrencies plummeting a little bit these recent times, which is a very good news actually. We will talk a little bit also about it. But allow me to start very quickly with the title of my talk today. Blockchain is a new foundation for economic and social institutions. It's a very, very big promise, and the proof will be provided, I hope, hopefully, very quickly around this one. Not working. It's okay, I can manage slightly. Anyway, as you know, Bitcoin has his anniversary, has 10 years today, and I will start with this quiz. What percentage do you think enterprises have ongoing blockchain projects this year, 2018? Any guess? 10% of all enterprises, global enterprises around the world, medium and large? How much? Percent? 2 to 3%. Okay. Anybody says more? 5%? Go up, please. No? Okay, it was a quick quiz. 95% of enterprises worldwide, China, Europe, Russia, Italy, USA, everywhere, worldwide, Canada, 95% of them have ongoing projects today. Today, last month, until the end of this year. And there are a little bit more details to tell you where's blockchain today. Second question, how much enterprises spend this year, in average, per enterprise, out of these 95%? How much budget do you think they have invested, minimum, on a blockchain project this year? Any guess? Just give me one or two figures and we will advance quickly. How much? Yeah. Go with the guess and tell me what do you think about this guess. 200,000, something like that? Yeah. Okay, oh, sorry, went too quickly. I will tell you per enterprise, but this year there has been $2 billion spent on blockchain projects worldwide. And about the average per company, I'll go quickly on these ones. So, this is the last figure, $1 million as a minimum. The minimum is 70% of French enterprises spent $1 million. In China, it's more. In US, it's a little bit less. The average is 1 million. And those other figures are very, very important. Cryptocurrency market cap is above $2 trillion. It's not too much. It's just important. It's just a little bit an indicator of maturity. And the count of blockchain projects in 2016, actually it dropped in 17 and 18. The number, the count of projects, 25,000 projects in 2016 alone have been done and finalized by companies worldwide. Okay, 10% of them survived more than 6 months. This is an indicator of not a mature technology this year. And the structuring era we're living today explains why the 25,000 is today about 18,000 or 17,000. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah. This was in 2017 figure. You're correct. It's a little bit less now, yeah. It's 100 billion, 120 billion now today, yeah. I will talk about why it dropped. But let's take these figures to say that after 10 years, Bitcoin, blockchain technology, after 10 years, it's around these numbers in 2017 to 2018. A quick, the beginning of Bitcoin, just a reminder maybe, does every one of you know about Bitcoin very much, blockchain very much, or no? Do you consider yourself very knowledgeable in this technology? Yes, no, not too much. Okay, I'll go quickly on these ones. So Satoshi in 2008, he invented this Bitcoin technology, just a reminder for his anniversary. It started in 2007 around the crisis, the crash. And actually when he issued the first transaction, he referenced the crash, just to say that it's like a response for this crash. He registered the name 2008. Remember that 2008 is also the date of the invention of the smartphone. So two big inventions happened at the same time. 2009, very quickly, in 2011, the parity with dollar has been reached with something that almost nobody have heard of in 2010, 2011. This means that scientists, doctorates, cryptographers who were seeing this happening on forums saw value in it in order to bring the value from 0 point many zeros per dollar to 1 per dollar. And the one who saw the value are not traders, are not fans, are not investors. They were cryptographers and scientists. Now, I just dropped 1 year, 2012. 2013, it jumped from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1,000. What happened? Well, many scientists saw value, confirmed value, and some buzz started to go around it in academics, in academic circles. And some investors saw also business in it. That's why the value have grown. But it had grown a little bit faster than it should be. So in Japan, French head of the company had a big problem with his Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was like an escrow for keys. He was like a bank for the people who have cryptocurrencies. And he go bankrupt, and the money of these people were lost. It was a big scandal in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and it plummeted the trust and the value more than it's plumbing today in ratio. But it recovered very quickly. I will go immediately to 2017. We've talked about 2016 with the 25,000 projects. Last year, there were 16 million Bitcoins in circulation out of 21 maximum. 500,000 transactions per day were being processed. 19 million Bitcoin users, about 20 million Bitcoin users, doubling in just 1 year. And the Bitcoin reached almost 20K. Now, why did we need this invention? Why did it happen in 2008? There was a reason, not just the economic crisis. Sorry, it's happening alone. Well, it reminds us from the invention of the web. When someone saw the web in the beginning, you can start to project how many things you can do, but you cannot really implement them because you don't have mature technologies, you don't have mature use cases. But it reminds us of those two people, the inventors of the web and the inventor of the smartphone. Same year, Steve Jobs said, "Your life in your pocket, the ultimate digital device." He has the sense of formulas, a very short phrase. He was a very visionary person, 2007, to see what we are living today. And this graph you see here is from the payments industry. This is the penetration rate, adoption rate of smartphones versus the adoption rate of smart cards, payment cards. Sorry, not smart cards, any payment card, even magnetic stripe. The yellow line is smartphone adoption. And we've published this in 2010. And it's still accurate almost to date. In 2015, there were around the world more people holding smartphones than people holding any type of payment cards. Okay, on average, you can have up to 7 payment cards in your pocket, but you're still one holder of payment cards. And you might have 1.5 smartphone, but still, there were more people holding smarter devices, smarter connected devices than payment card. So it disrupted the payment industry alone, in addition to the digital revolution that it created afterwards. But again, why it was needed? Well, the problem was the internet and the web. Internet and the web became too complex. If you want to add a new feature, to add a new service, you needed to go and work through 6 months of roadmaps, agile or DevOps, do it the way you want. It would take you too much time. Because at the end of the day, you will integrate many systems together and make them produce some new service. It is not built in the internet. Those features should be brought as a service, built in the internet. And that's why Bitcoin came. That's what Bitcoin did, actually. What it brought the Internet of Value, as you know today, the proof of ownership of something, the proof of existence, the proof of workflow, the proof of operation. It allows smart contracts, which is, at the end of the day, can be a real-world contract or a way of executing it or automating it. It brought things built in the internet itself that without it, you would need to spend much more money to make it work. You can do it without the blockchain, but it will cost you 3 times, 4 times more, or in time or in money to do it. Allow me to give you just briefly 3 definitions, and then we will advance a little bit faster. How can we define correctly today the blockchain? Above all, it's a trust factory. It's a factory of trust between a group of entities that does not necessarily have trust between them or know each other or work correctly with each other all the time. So it allows them to exchange any kinds of assets. It can be virtual, it can be tangible, but this is a very precise definition of what's a blockchain. The blockchain is a trust factory between a group of people which allow them to exchange assets safely without the need of intermediaries. And again, the asset can be anything, virtual or real. Now, a more functional definition of blockchain, we will see today up to 4 definitions of blockchain with different aspects. The functional one is the following. Blockchain is a smart assets ledger. It's a ledger, it's a programmable ledger. That's why we can call it a little bit smart. It's chronological, 100%. Everything is chronological. It is distributed, like peer-to-peer systems. It is verifiable by everyone, transparent. It's tamper-proof, immutable. Through a distributed system of trust, between those participating parties, or nodes, we call them. We will go later about the real implementation of blockchains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Corda, Hyperledger, to see a little bit the differences between them, but this is the basic definition. If you go outside of this definition, you are not really talking about blockchains anymore. And as you can see, the trust is the keyword. And then at the end, a quick definition of what is a smart contract. We can say it's just code executing. So this is nothing new. Well, this definition about just saying just code executing, it comes from non-real blockchains around the world. Because a real blockchain that provides you a smart contract, the smart contract is a way to automate a real world contract, point. It can be a real world contract from a judicial point of view, and we've implemented it for some clients this way, but there's some conditions to put above, like electronic signature according to the laws, etc. Web 3.0 is the new web that is distributed, the new web based on blockchains. But if you want to read a book, if you want me to advise you to read a book about blockchain, I advise you to read two books. One of them is called The Business Blockchain for William Maguire. He might have Lebanese origins, I think, I've heard. It's the excellent book about understanding the revolution of blockchain. And this one, Life After Google, The Fall of Big Data and the Rise of Blockchain Economy. This guy there, George Gilder, is a friend of Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, to all the heads of Google, Oracle. He's really friend with them, and he reported in this book, their thoughts on the revolution of the digital technologies. I'll give you two examples to show you the difference and the way that blockchain can work with big data and what's the input of each one of them. For example, he reported that in order to Google, to allow all its intelligence to detect the difference between a cat and a dog, it took them data centers that were drinking a Nile River to cool, with a mountain of CPUs, with months and months and years of learning, and it was only still managing to detect the difference between those two animals in an unacceptable ratio. So when you say Bitcoin uses too much energy to treat one transaction, we will discuss this a little bit later, but this is not the only source of energy that we are using in the digital revolution. And the result of this, the output of this, is that the artificial intelligence will never be divergent, will never be incremental, will never be divergent. It's always convergent to something that is predictable, that is programmable, and it is limited in a way. It is very important, but it is still not revolutionizing all the economy and all the institutions of our society. It's just incrementing it, commoditizing certain service of it, helping people to advance very quickly. It will still outpace our smartness in certain technical processes. But the difference with blockchain is that it will change the game of the economy. And we will see how very quickly. But allow me first to start with what is money and what are those cryptocurrencies. Excuse me returning too much back in time in history, but it's very important to remember, where does the value of money come from? It's a very philosophical question in society. Many have tried to solve it. Aristotle, for example, said it's just the measure of work. So gold and silver have value because you put energy and put your work to mine them. Therefore, they have value. And this seems to be a very acceptable definition of where is the value coming from for money. But it's not a very good one, actually, because you can do some work that has no value. You can do some work that destroys value. So it shouldn't be just the measure of work. Paradoxically, Plato, before him, gave a better definition, and Aristotle were arguing with him. Anyway, it's just a social convention. It's just a way to do barter in a smarter way. It's a double barter, actually. That's all. It's just a social convention. He was against gold and silver. He was against intrinsic value of any kind of money. And then there's the third definition, very important. It came a little bit in the Roman time. Well, there's a citation from Jesus saying, render unto Caesar what's to Caesar's and to God what's for God. But this means the following. This means that the state has the monopoly of violence, and therefore the value of the money is this power that has been given to the state, well, by democracy, but it's a monopoly of violence. Therefore, the state can issue money the way he wants because he has the monopoly of violence. If you don't accept it, he can cut your hand. And that's actually what happened. Did you know that the first inventor of fiat money were the Mongols? Well, they might not be the best reference in civilizations, maybe, or in value, but it was their dynasty that in the years 1200, it's Marco Polo who reported this. That's where it wasn't too much reported, that the Great Khan collected all the gold and silver from his empire and the copper and brought them to Mongolia, and he printed. It was one of the first printed papers, and they had value of money. And he would punish any fraud by killing the person who will fraud them, and he will pay money for the one who tells who was cheating. He will cut the hand, he will kill, anyway. When he tried to impose it onto Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, our region refused, and we assassinated this emperor. We sent someone to assassinate him in this region. This is just to tell you that we were too much looking for gold and silver, not for these useless maybe papers at that time. And then this Marco Polo reported to Europe, and then this John Law, almost nobody likes him, I think. But anyway, John Law, he was a Scottish person, he works with the French king, and he invented the central bank. And he invented the called thing, assignat, les assignats. Well, there was not too much money, and then they said, well, we will print paper and you say it's money. And we will print it as much as we want. We have the monopoly of the violence. Nobody can challenge us until the revolution. And it was one of the causes, the real causes of the French Revolution, actually. But again, where's the value of money? It's the abuse of the state power that brought this down. I will pass this. And then payments advanced to cards, and then to smart cards. Just the anecdote, who invented the word smart card? He was a utopian author. In the year 1887, he wrote a book, Imagining the World in the Year 2000. And he was saying, anyone who has a smart card in the year 2000, it will be much more worth than real American gold. He just invented it. And somebody had done that. And the first word, the Western Union. I don't know if they have read his book, but they've invented it much more earlier than 2000. It was in 1940 or 1912. And then this French guy called Roland Moreno, he invented the SIM card, the smart card. This smart chip can store memory and is programmable. So money became smart. This was the first time that money becomes smart. Not just paper, not just plastic. Well, some say he stole the idea from a France Telecom engineer. He called him, he discussed with him, he took the idea, he went and made a brevet on it. And he was then very, very rich for many years. He was getting much loyalties around it. Finally, a quick definition of what is payments. This is my core business. I've been working in payments since 2006, at least. Payments are the ecosystem of exchanging non-cash money for services, work, and goods through secure electronic transactions. That's payments. Between a sender, payer, and the receiver, the payee. Few figures to tell you how much payment is important. Today, almost in 2022, there will be 700 billion transactions per year, worthing in value, look at that, $712 trillion in value, bringing revenues to this ecosystem of Visa, MasterCard, banks, and the participants in this ecosystem, worth $1.1 trillion for them. But the fraud is also very high, $23 billion in fraud in the system. So you can see that this is the #1 business in the world. It is payments. It's many times the GDP of the world. Each dollar will go from a hand to another. And what's wrong with this ecosystem? Why we needed to invent Bitcoin? Well, you can imagine why, but let me show you precisely why. So when a payer wants to send $100 or euros, for a payee, what does he do? He can present a card, he can use a virement bancaire, wire transfer. But anyway, what would happen is that the merchant, the payee, would need to talk and to integrate with a payment service provider. That is he has the stamp from the, for example, European Payment Council or Banque de France or Banque du Liban or something. But anyway, this is a third participant. He would take a fee, as you can see, on the transaction. But what he would do is that he would talk to the scheme, because you would have a Visa card or a MasterCard or an Amex or a CB in France. And I'm really simplifying. It's much more complicated than that. But anyway, Visa would then talk to the originator, the bank, the issuer bank of this credit card. The issuer would say, okay, he has the $100. I will block them. This is the authorization number of the payment. You can now proceed with your transaction. So you have these 3 steps in addition, IT steps, not just IT, business steps, procedures. There need to be controls on them, audits on them, stuff like that. And the step 7 sometimes would allow the merchant to release the goods or to execute the service. The authorization number can be sufficient certain times. Sometimes, no, you need to wait till the end. But at least the madam has her goods. But the payment is not finished. At the end of the day or the mid of the day, the payment service provider would need to talk to the acquirer, which is the bank of the merchant, to tell him, well, you need to acquire, you need to process this payment now. You need to bring the money. And then the bank, or sometimes another participant behind the bank, it can be much more complicated, would talk to the clearing house, just a simplified example. The clearing house, for example, in France or in Europe is STET or EBA. They treat many trillions per year. Anyway, the clearing house will talk to the central bank, to the Target 2, to use the accounts of the banks at the central bank to do a clearing and settlement of these transactions. But not just the unitary one, with many other payments during the day. And then the clearinghouse would go and talk to the issuer, would tell them, well, you can consider this transaction finished, so you can debit the account of madam with the 100 euros. It's still not finished. The central bank now would go and tell the acquirer, well, you have the money, you can credit your account of this 100 euros. And then the beneficiary will tell the payee on his account, well, now you have plus 100, and madam would see on her bank online that she has minus. As you can see, 15 steps, just for a very, very simple. It should be transparent. It is, it works well, but it's too much complicated. But it's not all. The 100 euros, he will receive only 98 at the end of, not even at the end of the day. 1 day to 7 days, he will receive this amount. So we can do better. In 2018, we can do much better. And I didn't account for 3D Secure for other participants on this scheme. So again, what's wrong with payments? There are too many things that can be simplified. It's too much regulated, too much fraud. Just to give you one example, on online payments, there are 20 times more fraud than on vicinity payments. 20 times is too much. And it's a constant year after year. It's an average in the world, worldwide. There are too many schemes. There are Visa, MasterCard, there's SEPA, there's too many schemes. There are mobile point of sales, terminals, ATMs, all of this to manage cash and online payments. It's a very complex world. And it's slow. Well, Bitcoin can do this in near real time, you know that. Other cryptocurrencies can do that in real time. And we are not talking anymore about a centralized system, but a distributed system. And to finish around cryptocurrencies, well, this is just one example from BlockChain. This is the example of wallets. How many of you have Bitcoins and Ethereum or any other? Okay, so you know more than this slide then. But anyway, this is a view on your wallet. It can be your online bank of cryptocurrencies. And actually, we've been contacted and we've been working with banks in Spain who want to become banks of cryptocurrencies also for their clients. We need to adapt their core system to manage cryptocurrencies as real bank of cryptocurrencies, not just of euros. But you can see the transactions sent and received. You can see some examples of how you can enter the system. You can pay through a wire transfer or through a debit card payment. You can see that they take commission. When it's a transfer, it's almost for free. It's 0.2 maximum to 0.1%. But if it's a debit card, since they pass through the 15 steps you've seen earlier, the fee is 3%. The average was 2%, but there's much more risk on this one, so they take 3%. So I bought here 300 euros worth of Bitcoin 2 days ago, just to give you this demo, to show you this slide, and they took 9 euros as a commission, because I wasn't, the wire transfer would take 2 days, so I would be ready to show it. This is not all. Where can you pay with Bitcoin today? This is the major issue of Bitcoin. You can use it almost nowhere. Well, no. There are almost 100,000 merchants around the world today that accept Bitcoin for a service. It can be to buy a car in Greece. It can be to have an administrative process in Estonia. It can be for other services, to buy a coffee on a shop in Paris. But anyway, there's today almost 100,000. This is nothing. It's peanuts. It should be much, much more. But it's good. It's advancing. A quick deep dive of how blockchain works. I hope this is useful for you, but it can be useful to project onto business use cases, which is be the next section. So again, why blockchain invention was needed? Blockchain is everything you don't understand about money, combined with everything you don't understand about computers. It's really a complicated thing. But if you want a better definition, Vitalik Buterin is the inventor of Ethereum. He was 19 years old when he invented Ethereum. And he said that there are Lego mindstorms for building economic and social institutions. He was a visionary at 19 years old, but this is very strong from him. It's not just the classical Lego, it's the programmable Lego. That's why he said Lego mindstorms. And we will show today real-world implementation that are live that demonstrate this definition. But first, it's a natural evolution. Systems were very centralized, then decentralized, then distributed. This is a natural evolution. Distributed, it was like Emule and Torrent. We know that from a long time ago. Where does blockchain sit? Blockchain is not the web. Blockchain is the new internet. Okay, I will put it above the internet because it works above the internet, but it is a built-in feature of internet today. There can be blockchains, there's an S, as you can see, but it's a built-in feature in the internet that has nothing to do with the web. Because the web was too complicated, as you see, there's the World Wide Web, and then web apps, and then other systems above that, it became too complex. So we have a commoditized, can I say this in English? The many features in blockchain, like electronic signature, like money, like payments, like automation, in the internet itself. And Ethereum by itself is a worldwide computer. Maybe you know already about hashing, so I'll pass that. But just to show you how the blocks are chained together, where the definition came from. So each block would have many transactions. Each block would be linked with the block before it. And there's a proof of work that would secure this chain in a way that we call this Byzantine fault tolerance. And what is Byzantine general problem, Byzantine fault tolerance? Well, this says the following. Nodes first can leave and rejoin the network at will. So we have today about 1 million Bitcoin node. If you want 100,000 can be unplugged at night, nothing would happen on the capability of the internet. By the way, of Bitcoin. By the way, the power of the Bitcoin network is much more powerful in terms of computing power than Google, Apple, Oracle, and Amazon combined. And when we say that Apple, for example, or Google have data centers that drink rivers to detect the difference between a cat and a dog with 100,000 or million of CPUs, and Bitcoin is, in terms of computing power, more powerful. Okay, the nature of the power is in GPU power, which is very good for certain arithmetic calculations. But this just tells you why Bitcoin is very secure, because if you want to attack it in a denial of service, well, you would need computing power to do that, and it is the most powerful network. Even Google, Apple, and Amazon, if they want to attack just as a denial service on Bitcoin, they cannot do it. And the basis of the problem is this. Okay, we were under the Byzantine General Empire. We know about Jad al-Byzanti, my dear friend reminded me. I wasn't able to translate this to Arabic. He said, it's nothing, just Jad al-Byzanti. The Byzantine general problem is the following. Those generals were used when they attacked the city. The emperor never came with them. So they were like equals. And they have lieutenants. But they're equals, they don't like the other general, so they would like him to die in this battle so they can take his place. So there were faulty generals, or traitors, if you want. So what is the best scheme, the best protocol, intellectual one, that would make the battle a success, the attack a success, without a leader? What's the consensus algorithm that should work well to make this happen? When it happens, that's what Bitcoin implemented, for those nodes. There's some rules. You need transparency. When I send a message, I should send it in a synchronous way to Joe and to Doctor, and Doctor can send my copy of it to Joe, and Joe can double check his copy with him. So there are some set of rules that would end up with the following. If even 49% of the generals are traitors, the attack will still be a success. Because we will detect the traitor, we will get him out of the attack, we will cancel his decision or his request, and the action would still work. This is the basic core of Bitcoin security. Finally, about what's the differences between those blockchains? Well, these are the main four: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperledger, and Corda. The first two have cryptocurrencies. The second two do not have cryptocurrencies. This is the first difference between them. And this is a very problematic difference, actually. Because you cannot have a proof of work without the cryptocurrency. You cannot have the same level of security without proof of work. So that's why Hyperledger and Corda would use a permissioned Hyperledger. This means there's an administrator. This means there's someone who decides what's wrong and right. There's no real consensus. And for each transaction, we would choose bank A. The second transaction, well, it's bank B who should decide because he's the owner of the account. Well, this diminishes a little bit the value of the disruption of the technology. You're still in the classical scheme. Well, you have like a central point. But you're using a shared technology, which is good. It has some value. But this is a very main difference between them. Of course, they are faster because they don't have the proof of work, which takes too much energy. Because the power of proof of work is that if you want to go and alter a transaction, you would need to go and recalculate all the cryptographic hashes of the ones that were before, and this incrementally through time would become infinite in computing power. That's why it's immutable. And today, when we implement blockchain in certain business cases, we think this way. Some use cases should be private, must be private, actually. You don't want to put everything on a public place to share competitive data, but you still need to peg that with a public blockchain to ensure the integrity, to ensure the traceability or certain compliance or certain checks and controls on the network. So whenever I'm implementing a blockchain, I was always facing this problem. I need to have a part of it on a sidechain, a part of it on a real-world public blockchain, which is not Hyperledger and not Corda. They cannot bring this feature. And I will end this chapter with a high-level architecture. We're not entering details, but just to show you where is blockchain, where is off-chain in a certain solution, a certain business or technical solution. As you can see, there is a part that is on-chain. It can be on a cloud, Bluemix, Azure, or Amazon, or on-premise if you want, but it can be on cloud. Each company can own, or each participant, or each node can own a node, or a copy of the ledger. It can be on his cloud, or his other cloud, anyway. And the rest of the solution should be, actually, there's almost no solution that's blockchain only, on-chain only. You will always need some microservices, classical public and private APIs. You connect it to data lakes. The idea of a data lake that the data is in mass, but it is not traceable, not quality assured. There's a value of pegging big data and blockchain to ensure automation and quality assurance. Subject identity, the gateways, and then you can access it classically, either through APIs or through graphical user interfaces. So each time I implement a blockchain solution for my client, I end up with something that resembles this scheme. Now, let's see what are today the live blockchain solutions that are bringing value live for clients today. The first thing we need to have in mind that it changes the business model. If it doesn't, you don't need a blockchain. So if you think that you're implementing and testing and playing with blockchain with something that is not changing your business model, just don't do it. it would end up to be in the 90% project who failed in 12-16. The changes business model is easy. It's the following one. Oh, too quickly. Yeah, so you need to go out of centralized and go through a distributed business model. Distributed, I'll give you a quick example. Hotel beds. Do you know Booking.com, Hotel.com, Trivago? Well, many of these platforms, well, they don't have contracts with each hotel around the world. It's just physically impossible. They integrate with hotel beds. They are the bank of all the hotel rooms available and specifications around the world. They have the contracts with all the hotels. So they have these contracts. Hotels would update the availability, and they are like a bank account. And then Booking.com will have a contract with them to access it through a certain pricing that is different from the one from Trivago because they've negotiated something different in a different region or anything. But at the end of the day, it's an intermediary. He's here. He's here. Our neighbors at the south of Lebanon in California have re-implemented the same business model with 5 people on Ethereum, and they've made it public. And they can't just kill the world leader. It was like Nokia and Apple. But the difference is that it's not Apple. It's just 5 people who are killing the leader. So we were consulting hotel beds, and the conclusion was the following. You need to change your own business model. You need to kill yourself. You kill your own business model, go this way, disrupt yourself, provide this private marketplace, this public marketplace for all the hotels, capitalize on your leadership. You have the contracts with them. Just take yourself out of the equation and allow those hotels to talk directly, to make deals directly with Booking.com or others. This means it's going to become almost free, a free service. Well, almost, because there will always be some residual commission for certain transactions and certain smart contracts between those people. Because you will be a bookkeeper in the term of blockchain. You will provide the platform to allow them to contract together. But you would have more value doing loyalty system, integrating travel with hotel, bringing more value on that platform. And that's what they are doing today. A real-world example that is live today with AXA in France. Have you heard about AXA Fizzy? Very good. Happy. How did you hear about it? You live in France? Oh, good. Which company? Sorry? Nice to meet you. AXA, for example, well, look, not to give them too much credit, this was implemented before AXA. Call me. It was implemented without AXA. And I will tell you the difference why it should be even without AXA. Sorry for you. But let's see what's live today and what's the future of blockchain. What's live today is the following. AXA is a central entity. It's disrupting a little bit itself, just a little bit, and saying the following. Well, if Madam want to have an insurance for cancellation, other one for delay, or both if you want, well, what they would do on the blockchain, they would talk to the platform, register for a contract, pay for the service. It's an escrow service. If you put $100 and the other one put 100, it's the basic of insurance. It's not too much my business. But anyway, it's just an escrow. So it's a pool where you put all your money in. If somebody have a problem, you would take this money and pay him out. Usually it takes too much time. You need to have claims to verify, to check for fraud, and then maybe after a month you would pay him something. Sorry? Yeah, not maybe. Okay. Depends on the asterisks many times. Many times. But anyway, the AXA solution is the following. So for example, when an airplane got delayed or canceled, the blockchain is aware in real time, thanks to a connection just to Middle East Airlines or Air France or FAA, they would see that this plane is delayed. And if the contract that you registered on your smartphone was 2-hour delay, 500 euros paid, you just get paid immediately. And by immediately, you would immediately receive a notification, 2 hours and 1 minute, it's paid. try to see a short video. Here. So as you can see, it's powerful. It's just an automation of an existing system. You can do it without blockchain. And this is the problem. Because they are twisting a little bit the blockchain just to make some buzz around it. Because usually this use case should be implemented differently. Okay, I know very well Azzana, and they're pioneering this. Applause to them. No problem with that. But the ideal way of doing this is the following. It should be a communitary, let's say a democratic insurance system that disrupts AXA itself, or insurers. In principle, accommoditization. It becomes a commodity. The service becomes a commodity on the internet. We don't need big insurance for that, at least for this part. They can have other value on this value chain. But the following is simple. You just have this escrow. You have a smart contract. The smart contract will decide whether to pay you or not. You don't need AXA behind it. You even don't need an insurer behind it. Why? Because today, this example will still pay you in euro. Will make a payment that will go to those 15 steps. But, sorry? Yeah? Yeah, sure. But this one is isolated. This one is really isolated. You're just buying this service. It's an experiment. AXA did not change completely yet. But the good news is that it can be for agriculture. Yeah, with Alliance and But the next step, AXA announced yesterday, is that they will pay you in Ethereum if you have an Ethereum account. So if you buy the insurance with Ethereum, they will pay you with Ethereum. This is a better step. But again, this is the limitation of the exercise. It's live, it's in production, it's working, it proves the concept, and it's really, really very fast. I finished this point. This project has been done in a couple of months, less than 6 months. Usually, if you want to do it, it might take much, much more. And the cost of it was really very low. You can do it without blockchain. The cost would be at least twice. Yeah, please. Airlines, Air France, for example, KLM, Middle East Airlines. There are oracles, trusted third parties. They have APIs of flight plans, so you see the delay. And they are a trusted source. So Oracle for blockchain is a trusted third party that is off-chain. So you trust him. When he tells you it's raining in Beirut, or there's a Barad, yeah, thank you. It's a trusted source. You can double check it with multiple sources and decide to activate the eligibility in the contract. Who are the other participants? It can be FAA, it can be, I don't know, weather companies. Sorry? I didn't hear. Yeah, of course. I didn't hear it well. We've been working with Airbus and going for another use case around the accreditation of the certain certifications. I will talk about it in a different use case. But this is just one example. No, it wasn't Azzana Consulting. We work with AXA on compliance with GDPR, actually. We work with them on GDPR. But this use case is just public knowledge. I'm giving you today real-world examples where's blockchain live. Yep. I'm not too much in the Lebanese business area, but I know that Banque de France have implemented a couple of proof of concepts. I don't know about any other real test of blockchain. And I think that none is live, to my knowledge, in general. Public sector, private sector. I've talked to many, but to my knowledge, none of these experiments went live, even the ones of Banque de France. But tomorrow or Friday, they can confirm that maybe it has changed. As a consortium, you mean? Between insurers? Yeah.
Not hearing you. Have a nice voice. Not all of us hearing.
I heard the question, no problem. Two answers. One is theory, and then the second one is just a direct response. The first one is, where's the adoption, where's the best industry to adopt the blockchain? When you go to consortiums, this is the most complex one, and this is usually not mature. All the banks have tried, R3CEV, I'll talk a little bit about them. Insurers have tried, and all these are just consortium to see what the other one is thinking of. That's it. To be frank with you, even R3CEV have tried to define certain schemes, but they are not in production, they're not mature today. They're just proof of concept, they prove certain things, which is maturing the technology, very good, but it is the most complex place to adopt the blockchain this year and the next year. The best place to adopt it is internally. As you can see, this example was internal. AXA alone, with their own supply chain or providers of services. They were not with Alliance, they were not with the competitors. This is the next step. You need to learn first, test and learn first, put it in production first, and then try to negotiate the interoperability later. This is the best incremental way of doing things.
Thank you.
If you allow me to go through a couple of real-world use cases, this would show you where's blockchain really today. Ripple, maybe you've already heard all about it, but just to remind you that there are many, many other use cases of cross-border payments. Yesterday, I was at Congrès Blockchain de Paris. There were really many fintechs who have cryptocurrencies just for cross-border payments, some for Middle East, some for Africa, like Western Union, if you want. They're trying to disrupt the business model of Western Union. But this one is 4 banks. Ripple is made 4 banks. So when I make a transfer to Beirut, it can take 2 weeks. Well, this would take 2 seconds, 3 seconds. But at the end of the day, banks are accepting through contracts to pay each other through cryptocurrency that's called Ripple. So they are giving value to this cryptocurrency. So they're signing the contract that has real value. And then Ripple will sell cryptocurrencies tokens, so you can own a part of Ripple. This has the value of being in production, being tested between Australia, Canada, and USA, for example, and some banks in Europe. It's a good use case. I'm not too much convinced that Ripple would be the solution for cross-border payments around the world. Swift is trying a different solution. Other competitors are trying different solutions. But anyway, it has the merit of existing. And Ripple has been invented before Bitcoin. But it wasn't really a cryptocurrency. It was a token, a secure token. There was no proof of work in it. It's a permissioned ledger, in a way. This is a very beautiful use case. It is not that much known. It's Orange in France, who've made voting system for community. What does this mean? This is really a down-to-earth. I'm a mayor in a city, and I want to do some voting on certain projects. Let's say, do you want to have this road, or do you want to repair this parking? Or do you want me to build, I don't know, a hospital? Please vote. Where do you want me to put this money this month or next month? I have a decision to make. Well, you can have the answer immediately. It's a participating democracy or démocratie participative. And it works very fine. Thank you. Excuse my French. There's been too many years in France. Okay. C'est une solution citoyenne. It's a very, very useful, down-to-earth blockchain implementation. Voting is the best use case. Yes, sorry?
Isn't like crowdsourcing. It's a different reinvention of a word.
Same ethics. Same
concept, actually.
Not necessarily same concept, but yeah, same values. Sorry, this is the word. Same values of crowdfunding. Because voting is one of the hello world use cases of blockchain. The first thing you do when you develop blockchain, you do hello world voting system.
Is it integrated within blockchain, this system? The system, is it integrated within blockchain?
It's completely public, blockchain, Ethereum, so you can go and see all the votes. You can see the contract, you can see how the votes are really calculated, and they cannot play with the voting. It's public, and the blockchain is doing the calculation. Sorry, didn't hear the first part.
The key is the government in Lebanon to start thinking blockchain concept.
As you can see, this is not government initiative. Oh. I think this is going a little bit too far for me, in the sense that it's too much political. Somebody needs to do it and to show that it works without becoming Rafiq Hariri saying, Prime Minister, this is the way voting in Lebanon should be.
What is the requirement, Michel? Let's stop at this one little bit. What's the requirement for it? Does it require adding all citizen name to it?
Completely. You will need to issue identities for every voting citizen.
Which we have it.
Which is a very complex part of the process. This is the trickiest part. The rest is playing for a 17-year-old engineer who can do the development.
Because we have a session tomorrow on e-government. I would like to see blockchain and e-government.
There are many use cases for e-government, of course.
Because we have a session on that, and actually we have a speaker as well who's going to talk about blockchain and e-government as well.
Estonia, Tunisia have implemented it in government, yes. Well, you allow each person to go and create his own account. The blockchain will issue him a private key and a public key, but you can control this identity before issuing it because you have the data. You have the register of those municipalities. Of course, because you have this ledger, so you can do the checking and create him an account. And again, the first basic principle of blockchain is creating secure identities. This is the first thing it does. When you enter a blockchain to buy Bitcoin, to buy anything else, the first thing you do is you create the pair of keys and the address.
C of a blockchain implementation. This is a high level. I have nothing about it. And what are the A, B, C, D steps to have a blockchain solution?
Are you talking about roadmap of adoption, or are you talking about developing?
I have nothing. Okay. Tell me, I have a now e-government suggestion. What this takes me to do it? So you have to convince me of a solution that I have nothing about. Let's assume as a politician, you are talking me a jargon. What does that take me to do? One, what are B, 2, 3, and this is the outcome. So tell me what are the steps for implementation.
Yeah, the best methodology is the following, because you cannot go too much deeply and too much advanced very quickly. You need to do some acculturation. Awareness, excuse me, awareness. And the awareness comes through today. When you give real-world examples, when you give some history, some context, why it is needed, what's the value, and when we will end up with the future possibilities that are being implemented, but they are not in production. And this is the awareness part. And then you need to test and learn. That's what Banque de France has started to do. In France, it was Bank of France. That's how they started. And I will give the example that is now live. It's maybe actually the one that's next. No, I'll come to it later. So you test and learn. After testing and learning would serve the following: identifying the ROE, the return on investment, for certain use cases. So it's a benchmark of use cases. Ideation, we've done many design thinking sessions for many of our clients, large groups, in mobility, in energy, in insurance, in banking. And we've provided for them in consulting the roadmap of adoption. The last client, we've provided him with 9 lines of project. Each line has up to 5 to 6 projects, but there are, you can imagine them like a metro, but we don't have metro, so, but you have traveled, of course. Metro station, you have a starting point, the terminus, and you have station. Each station is a project, and there are crossings between those projects. So you cannot choose just one line and ignore the others. But anyway, when you have this roadmap, then you can choose your destinations, what's the target you want to reach, find the best way, the optimal way, and start to implement those projects. And we've done that with 3 clients, actually. It is rare to have real-world clients on blockchain. It takes sometimes 1 year negotiation with the client to mature a couple of ideas and to get budget and to go and test and learn, or to go an MVP, or to do the study of roadmap adoption, because they need to pass the awareness phase. But if you allow me just to advance a little bit on the real world, this will give you a better image of what we can do. Thank you. This is a very beautiful one, and even in the community of blockchain, rare are those who understand it and know about it. Do you think that blockchain is a database? Who think that blockchain is a real database? Like Oracle. It is? It is not. It is not. Because you cannot store, usually, like take Bitcoin, take Ethereum, it's not built to store large quantity of data. Those Oracle SQL systems are made to store large quantity of data and to search them and to query them and to structure them and index them. Bitcoin is not at all made for this. And this use case is just paradoxical, because it proved that it's much more than a database, much more powerful than a database. And this is a scientific advancement, actually. There are too many papers around it that are very beautiful to read and mind-blowing in intelligence to do. You have a question? Sorry. Yeah, allow me just to advance a little bit on this one. This one would kill Azure, would kill Bluemix, would kill Amazon Cloud. It is actually the cloud on blockchain. This means you can store terabytes and petabytes of data in blockchain, not secured with a blockchain somewhere that has some just traceability and integrity information of the real files, and the data would be on other systems out of the blockchain. No, everything is in the blockchain. There are many SIA coins, storage, there are many other competitors. This is the example of just one of them. And look at the beautiful concept. Each file, when you upload it, before you upload it, it's of course encrypted locally. Before you enter on, you put it on Azure or you put it on cloud, or when you put it on SIA coin, you would encrypt it locally. The encryption is extremely high level. You don't have that in Azure. You don't have that in Bluemix. You don't have that this level as default. And then each file is split into hundreds of chunks. Each chunk would be sent in a cryptographic secure way to random storage nodes. Blockchain nodes, real blockchain, like Bitcoin. It's a different Bitcoin, actually, SIA coin. It has the exact same concepts of Bitcoin, proof of work, security, very high level, etc. So each chunk is stored up at least 7 times. If you want, you can duplicate it more than that. Now, what does this mean? When you usually have the highest level of security and redundancy with Azure, it can be 2 or 4 copies of your files. One copy in Paris, another copy in China, another one in USA. The cost is astronomical when you do this. Astronomical. Don't talk about the encryption part of it also. This is out of the box, much more fast. Because you have hundreds of thousands of nodes that are storing at least 7 copies of all your data. And as Satoshi said, nodes can plug and unplug at will. And not even a single chunk will be lost, because the network will automatically detect that the 7th copy of my file is now offline. It might become later online, no problem, but now it's offline, so it will redundant it somewhere. And I will stop here from this security part. Just say that it's the best known level of security in cloud storage. Sorry? Budget-wise, it's like 30 to 40 times less than Azure, Bluemix, and everything else. Why? Because a different economy, different business model. Well, if you have like 10 terabytes of hard disk, you can rent 1 terabyte or 5 if you have free space. So this blockchain, it's like Emule, it's like peer-to-peer torrent. Just use your storage, but in a very secure way. Okay, this is a big part. And it will pay you. It will pay you SIA coins. You will. This is called farming. When you give some hosting, it's called farming. You're not mining, you're farming. But you will gain money. Yep. Yeah. Sorry. To the blockchain. The blockchain has alone the knowledge how to retrieve cryptographically your file. And why it's much faster than Azure? Because you have 7 servers giving you parallel chunks of your file. It's much faster for video. There are today a competitor of YouTube that has almost, no, not as much data as YouTube, but really, really huge quantity of videos that stream much faster than YouTube because of this. Yeah, sorry, a different question. They are not Bitcoin miners, they're SIA coin miners. It's a different cryptocurrency that is bidirectional. This means you can buy it and sell it with dollars. And its value is much, much less than Bitcoin because there are today too much offering and less demand. Not too many knows about SIA coins. So as you can see here, they have capacity today of 2.8 petabytes. Okay, Google has 15 petabyte capacity. They're not as big as, but the usage is just 227 terabytes. If we here put our data, we can consume them. But this is why the price is a little bit low. But it uses the exact same security features as Bitcoin. Yep. Can be stored then what? No, nothing. That's just files, any file, or either SQL data, sorry, either database data or files, PDF files, MP4s, MP3s, whatever you want. The system is very, very natural, ergonomic. Well, the issue is that if you're a company, and we're facing this with our clients. So to give you an example, in a Payage system, toll road system in France, the number one, we worked with him on a roadmap of adoption on blockchain. One of the use cases was to secure the assets of the IT. They have source code, they have too much payments data and real business data, and they are really afraid of losing it. If an attack of somebody, I don't know which country, they can just erase, they can lose the data and be out of business, almost. And the CIO is saying, well, can I benefit a little bit from blockchain to have a guarantee that I will not lose my data? I don't trust too much Azure, even of my data. This was one of the reflections of how to secure assets. Now, CIACon is not too much mature. I mean, this use case is not as mature as Azure. Because, for example, Azure, Bluemix, and the others have much more services, indexing on the data, other services of searching, retrieving, sharing the data, and they are still developing here. The roadmap, for example, for sharing data, to give you an access just to read, to give you an access just to write on my file, they're still developing these features. So business-wise, Microsoft and the other are much more mature on the cloud offering. But this is very disruptive, and it works very, very well for many use cases. YouTube competitor, Azure competitor, just for storage. Any other questions about this one? Yeah, sure.
So you're saying that the file is chunked into 7 chunks, let's say. So the blockchain knows where each chunk is, you mean? So what if someone just accessed the blockchain and now they can access the data by knowing where each part is? So
Yep, it's a public ledger, so anybody can access everything on it. I mean, it's readable, it's an open book. Yeah, just allow me to extend this point. It's a public ledger, it's an open book. You can open it and see it. I have some files on it, and I do some farming, so I can see the files of others, but actually you can see nothing. No, you can just see that there's some allocation of memory space on your hard disk. That's all you can see. No, you cannot see the chunks. It's just an allocation of like 5 terabytes filled with just, for example, just one file on your hard disk, completely encrypted, that contains maybe billions of chunks of I don't know whose chunks. And anyway, if I achieve to decrypt the chunk that is on my node, this means that I would have the private key in cryptography to do this, which is, if you do this, you just stop banking, stop insurance, stop everything you know in the digital world. You can do this, actually. And imagine that I retrieved it because I put a gun in the head of someone and I take this. I would just decrypt my chunk that is on my disk, and I cannot retrieve the other chunks to rebuild the file. Anyway, this is the beautiful part of the papers, so I invite you to go and read it. Any questions? Yeah, please. Developed by?
CETA, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In Paris, the guys that handle the network for transport, SITA.
No.
Well, because I remember discussions with them back in late 1980s that they were developing and putting online. They wanted to use X400 and X25 because it didn't take up any kind of computing power beyond what they already any computing power beyond what they already had. And I think a bunch of the people that were in that group, especially after DEC died, I mean, digital equipment went away, they all were experts in that and joined together. I think the original design is this one that I've seen before. And
maybe,
the cities even are
maybe, but this is an American company called SIA, and they have...
No. I mean the original designers of this network, because what we're talking about is a virtual network, not a virtual set of computers.
Oh, maybe the original network
That's
of peer-to-peer. Yeah,
yes,
some
yes,
French
yes,
engineers
yes.
from France
And with as
Telecom
many peers
or
as you
yeah.
need in order to keep it in operation.
Too many beautiful inventions, not all of them, of course. Too many came from there, but they were not too powerful to make them global. And, yep. How much time do I have before the break? We do cut here or? I carry on? Okay. So the next one, allow me to go quickly on this one, please, is with the French Banque Centrale, donc Banque de France. Banque de France made 2 public blockchain projects that are in production, live. They've met many others. I don't know how much failed, but I'm very knowledgeable of these two ones. The first one was putting all the logs of all their systems and systemic systems, servers, on a ledger, on a blockchain, to secure the logs. So if there's an attack, and the first thing you do when you attack, you erase the traces, well, you'll not be able to erase the traces on blockchain. Yep.
We will stop at 3 for this now, because asking question, if you'd like to allow that, instead of moving into our new topics, then we can have 10 minutes for questions. And because we started it, and I was going to stop question to the end, but then if there are questions, let's take it from now. And as I told you, really still, if you can tell me tutorial-wise for anything, I still lost myself. I don't understand what's going on. So what's the structure? Just answer me A, B, C. I want to go back to the Hukuma Electroniya for the e-government. What I need to talk to them tomorrow to the government, because you might not be in. So if you want to go through e-government, we have IDs, then how to take it from there. And this doesn't mean blockchain now is a network. I have to subscribe or build it. So this is not clear like an internet. I can access the internet without being part of the provider internet.
Yes.
Are there now blockchain providers so I can jump into it?
If you call it blockchain providers, the network exists, it's public, like Ethereum. Now, if you want somebody to build to build this project for you, to design it and to build it, of course, there are many. For example, Microsoft provides this as a service in terms of hosting and development. You'd still need the intelligent engineers to go and build it and consultants to conceive it with the business teams. But the steps, when you say there are steps, well, you first of all need to study the business case, the use case. But before that, you would need to understand what's the technology. And we are here in the awareness. Then when you detect the use case, I'm showing you examples of use case just as an inspiring source. But what we do usually is that, for example, for e-government, you can take a certain selected people from different services in the e-government and do a couple of days of design thinking sessions with them, with some inspiration part, some real world when you go and consult people on the ground, an employee, a woman, a doctor, somewhere of their problem that they're having with the government. You bring this bottom up, you give them something top down from consulting for inspiration, and you do design thinking sessions. There are exercises called, for example, Crazy 8, many other exercises that you do this session to bring out the use cases. And now when you bring out use cases, you would have like 100 use cases in these couple of days. You would elect 8, 10 maximum that become projects where you would go and do the return on investment, the budget, how much it would cost, what's the impact on the society, if we're talking e-government. And then when you do this,
but let me rephrase it.
When you start the proof of work,
which is, let's tell you how. I mean, I am a citizen of the country. I have to pay tax. I have to vote. I have to maybe get a ticket. I maybe have to pay it. So each one of us has to deal with the government. From you as a provider, how you make my life easy. So tell me, I mean, this is a question. I am as a provider, those are typical things. Tax, payment of salary, collection of payment, and then in this case, tell me, as I'm okay in charge of doing something, what does it take me to do that? Sorry? No, please. No, each one of us, I tell you in Lebanon, this is a problem. I know where's the problem. Because the ID is a part of the internal ministry. And then they approve the digital ID last 2 months. So when you have a one unique number, then who owns those numbers? This, we know the boundaries. We don't want to talk about politics. Let's see about what's the added value for me as a citizen. Then we, all of us lobby and tell them how she should do it. But what does this technology provide me? Will I get an ID that is unique, nobody can touch it, and this link to all my transaction, and government can send me information, collect tax. If I want to purchase something, I will get part of the government. Just a question. Yeah. I get ticket, I pay it, but the information not updated. So in this case, if you can tell me now, you got fined for a ticket, I authorize you to collect it and get me notification, accept it, taking the money. That will people listen to you. So what's the value proposition you are going to give to those who are going to buy it?
The danger in your approach is the following.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
This is a value proposition.
Excuse me. That's why I'm not recommending it. There's a danger in this approach. The danger of having des idées arrêtées, to dire, this is how it should be. In the beginning, it's easy. It's a very easy thing to do. I will do it. And I will show you why it's dangerous. Well, the best thing to do is the government should issue identities on blockchain. And actually, I've been consulted with the Lebanese army for the refugees, issuing identities and smart cards for them at some point. And this didn't go, it didn't go through blockchain way. Anyway, so the easy part is the following. First thing, as you said, issue identity. Issue identity means some number, but it's not just a number, it's a smart number. It's a private key and a public key. And then you would do as blockchain do, I didn't say that before, you'd obfuscate the identity. For each transaction, there's like a sub-identity. That's why it's completely anonymous. But anyway, it's still secure. So first thing government should do, should issue identity for everyone. And then, well, stop here. This would not work. But now allow me to continue with this idealistic approach. And then you'd say, إخراج الأيد, stop it. It's digital, it's online. تذكرة, it's online. Passport, it's online. Well, no, it's not just the code number. No, sorry, there are attributes. No, look at it, it's attributes. It's where you live, when you have been born, what's your sex, maybe what's your religion. There are many things you need to go and to put on this blockchain. Okay, now is it public? Oh, it's public. Oh, I don't want this to be public. I want this to be private for part, public for a part. That's why it's not an idealistic approach to go your way. And then, when you say you need to pay taxes on it, this is a very good use case for paying taxes. DGFIP in France, we've been working with them, and many of our competitors are working with them, with us, to design how taxes would be taken out through blockchain-based systems at some point for real-time taxes payment. Why should TVA should be something at the end of the year or mid of the year? I'm not too much in TVA. But anyway, well, is the good solution to put it on blockchain? But you cannot say this is the ideal world, let's go and start and do it. When you go this way, you don't see the roadmap to reach it. So you should not think of just where you want to go ideally. But this is wrong because the approach can be completely different when you build it up incrementally. No, when you do the design thinking sessions, you would go into the steps of building this. And the steps would tell you, well, maybe I don't need just one identity for each people. Maybe I need something else. I don't know it if I don't think about it with every participant on the value chain of government.
Indirectly, we are getting the gap income to the government. If you want to,
it is very difficult to issue a public identity on blockchain for a citizen.
But I don't know if
it's a
we can
very
do it
complex
for blockchain or
use
for the
case.
other two.
The United States is building it just for public sector employees, and I've answered this RFP last year, and we've lost to a competitor because they have just offered it 50% less just to work with the government. But anyway, 8 million employees, all the army, all the NSA, all the agents, every public sector employee. And the use case was not to issue just the identity. The finality is never just to well, it's a good use case, I will do it. The good use case is the mobility. Because when you transfer an agent from a state to another, from an agency to another, FBI to CIA, this agent would need to go and print and search all his documents physically and to bring them and then to re-enter them in a system. The systems are independent, they have different ITs, different protocols, not interoperable, and they are building it today to issue identities, but also to have all the life cycle management of an employee, HR system. This is one of the use cases I'm going to detail a little bit.
What was originally designed was a tree shape, and the higher up the tree, the more obtuse things were. You didn't know who owned what application. It was a network design that was multi-layered. And so what we're talking about here is one of the bottom layers, which is just one application in use. But the way the design operates and where you do get the protection of identities and applications is in the upper layers, because you determine who has access to those. And it's actually, there is a registered protocol that's still on the board somewhere, either as X400 or X25.
To illustrate this, and this is why I differ a little bit with the approach you're proposing, is that when you say, well, I know it works like this today, I want to project that on a blockchain. Well, the question is, do you need to do that? Do you need the Kharaj 8 on the blockchain? You don't need it. If you think much more deeper of the usage of this Kharaj 8, where do you use it? Well, you just don't need it anymore.
I mean, I agree the blockchain value, since this is distributed, then your details are updated automatically. And then it's added value. So I see for blockchain to move, we have to sell the proposed value to end user. What does it provide me?
Yep.
Sorry, you are talking technical. This I talked to Dr. Shawi in the morning. If you want to succeed in business world, you are trying to sell me technology that only jargon understood by the few. And this is a hindrance for the spread. You have to pick it in a language that what's the proposed value out of it, security, identity, first action, what, and then tell me as a scientist what's the ABC to do, and then we can work together. Otherwise, still a high level, we do not understand it. And I'm telling you, I'm professor, I do not understand the language yet. So
check
I'm
this
sure
use case.
other people will have the same
Dubai.
things. I have the courage to say my opinion, but other may not.
No,
So
of course.
please,
It's a very tricky one.
I'm talking about awareness issue here because we need to have added value to all of us, living with some thought, what are challenges, what are the opportunities from this technology.
Have you seen what happened in Dubai, for example? Yep.
That's what I want.
That's what I was going to do.
At least if it is for
Before
the
the
next presentation, we can have a break to have coffee break and come back because this is a 30-minute break and then we rejoin. I know you are tired, you need to have a break, all of us.